Mic test 1, 2.
Right.
The sales size, really, right? So,
Well, double that.
double. Depends how much this one. You look at the higher end, it's different. Yeah. Oh, okay. Great. But they've been out here for a while.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Diamond. I'm the digital media coordinator for the Town of Perinton, and I am here to help support the technology and moderation of this meeting. Before we begin tonight's presentation, I'd like to explain how we'll handle participation, questions, and comments during this public information session. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide accurate, clear information about the town-wide revaluation, why it's happening, how the process works, the timeline, and what residents can expect in the coming months. We know this topic can generate strong opinions, and your engagement is important to us. At the end of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and comments. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate, we will begin with in-person questions and comments here in the room and then move to participants joining us on Zoom. Additionally, this public information session is being recorded and it will be available on the town's YouTube page if you would like to review it. We do ask everyone, whether attending in person or virtually, to follow a few basic expectations so that we can have a productive and respectful session. Please be respectful to others. Personal attacks or disruptive behavior won't be permitted. Please stay on topic and keep comments focused on the revaluation process itself. Please allow others their turn and avoid interrupting speakers, staff, or other participants. Please be mindful of time so that as many people as possible can be heard. Our goal is to listen, answer questions to the best of our ability, and make sure everyone has a fair and orderly opportunity to participate. We appreciate your cooperation and your presence here tonight. With that, I'd like to introduce our town supervisor, Jen Townsend.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I'd like to thank Scott Diamond and Heather Moffat, our communications team, for putting together this presentation, for putting together the quarterly newsletter that went out with information in it as well, and keeping everybody updated online. It's been a lot of work, along with our assessor, Wayne Pickering, who's here, who's put a ton of effort into making sure we communicate effectively with people. So thank you for coming out, bringing questions to make sure that you get all the information that you want. We're here to give you what we can, and we take feedback. And so we hope you enjoy the presentation going forward, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks. And Wayne Pickering, our assessor.
Thought I was going to be able to leave there for a minute because you didn't introduce me. So, good evening. My name is Wayne Pickering. I'm the town assessor. I have been with the town of Perinton since December of 2018. I started out as the part-time assessment clerk in the town of Brighton back in the early 80s, and then became full-time assistant to the assessor in the town of Brighton in 1986. In 1989, I got my my first town as the full-time assessor in the town of Mendon. Like I said, that was in 1989. In 2005, I moved from the town of Mendon and became the assessor for the town of Victor. And then, like I said, I got here in December of 2018. So I'm going on 40 years of doing this job. It's a good job. People are nice to meet, and usually pretty nice and pretty straightforward. And I really enjoy the job. I hit the wrong button. Sorry. If I hit the laser button, it does that. So, and that's what I just did. So I apologize. So, in the assessment office, I have uh, one full-time appraiser, real property appraiser. I have two part-time appraisers. I have two assessment clerks. And I've hired temporary field and informal review personnel to help out during the update. Monroe County Real Property Tax Service provides computer processing and support, and the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Service, which is actually a division of the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, will also offer computer processing and support. Since I can't do it all this year, for the update, we did hire KLW Municipal Incorporated out of Buffalo to do the commercial and industrial properties within the town. And that's what I just went over. All right, so for an overview, we'll be doing what a revaluation is and why it's needed, what is going to be done. We'll try to explain market value, how assessments relate to taxes, a timeline, and some bottom line current statistics, and do a quick overview of some real property tax exemptions. So you got the video ready?
The town of Perinton has begun a town-wide property revaluation. A process started last year to update property assessments so they reflect today's real estate market. Perinton's last revaluation was completed in 2018, with the next update originally planned for 2020. That effort was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the housing market continued to change, the town resumed work on a new revaluation in August 2025. Revaluation isn't something anyone looks forward to, but it ensures assessments are accurate, consistent, and aligned with current market conditions. Before we get started, here are a few common terms you'll hear during the revaluation process. Assessment. Assessment is the estimate of what your property is worth based on the real estate market. This value is used in comparison to other properties, so taxes can be distributed proportionally. Tax levy. The tax levy is the total amount of money a taxing authority needs to collect to fund its budget. A revaluation does not change the size of the tax levy. Revaluation. Revaluation updates all property assessments at the same time to reflect current market conditions. Since our last revaluation in 2018, property values in Perinton have changed dramatically and unevenly. Some homes have doubled in value, while others have increased by less. When assessments no longer reflect the real market, some property owners may pay more than their fair share, while others pay less. Revaluation helps restore balance by bringing all assessments up to date. Revaluation does not increase the total amount of taxes the town collects. Think of the tax levy as a pie. The size of the pie is determined by budgets adopted by the town, village, schools, county, and other taxing entities, not by the assessor. Revaluation simply redistributes the pie based on current market values. Most property owners will see their assessed value go up because the market has gone up. But an increase in assessment does not automatically mean you'll pay more taxes. When the total value of all properties rises, tax rates typically decrease. What matters most is how your property's value changed compared to others. Here's what you can expect. Preliminary assessments will be mailed in February of 2026. If you agree with your assessment, no action is required. Informal reviews will be available from March through April. Property owners may submit documentation or schedule a review if they believe their assessment is incorrect. The month of May is when the formal grievance period begins, which is available whether or not you participated in an informal review. The final assessment roll is filed in July of 2026. When your preliminary assessment arrives, take time to review it and compare it with recent sales in your neighborhood. If it looks accurate, no action is required. If you believe something was missed or incorrect, the informal review process is a helpful first step. Revaluation helps keep our system accurate, transparent, and aligned with real market conditions. It supports long-term stability, ensures consistency, and helps make sure taxes are distributed properly based on up-to-date property values, not outdated assessments. Thank you for your engagement as we move through this important process. For more information, visit perinton.gov.
All right, so what's just stated in the video is that this month you will receive in the mail assessment disclosure notice stating what your proposed and preliminary assessment is going to be. When you receive the notice, compare it to other properties of similar style and square footage that have sold, and try to see if the assessments your assessment is in line with what other properties are selling. There is a list of sales on the town website, and today we just put up a most recent sales in the town, and it is in Excel format, and you can download it and sort it by however you want to sort it. So The assessment should reflect the market value of your property. If it doesn't, you would want to request a informal review of your property. You can either request that by written letter into the assessment office. You can send me an email or you can do an in-person appointment, and the in-person appointments will be held during the month of March and may go into the first part of April. For the steps of revaluation, right now we're in about at step 7.5, because all the field reviews have been done, and I'm getting ready to send out the preliminary values. So the assessment calendar on the top, I'd like to start with the taxable status date on the second arrow. The taxable status date is the assessment will reflect the condition of the home and the property as of March 1st of 2026. So if you have a vacant piece of property and it's vacant on March 1st of this year, you'll be assessed for a vacant piece of property for this ensuing tax year. If on March 2nd, you are able to fly in a house and plop it on the property and start living in it, you would still only be paying taxes on the vacant land, because as of March 1st, it's a vacant land. March 2nd, you had the house. Reverse that to where you have a house on March 1st, but something happens to that house, either burns down, blows down, or you decide to move it, you would pay full taxes because it was an approved parcel as of March 1st. So that's the taxable status date. Now, if we go back one step to the valuation day, the valuation day is July 1st of last year, July 1st of 2025, and it's the market value of that property on July 1st using the condition as it was this March 1st. And the reason they do that is it allows us in the assessment office to review sales and get ready for each assessment roll that we have to file each year. March 1st is the tentative, when the tentative roll is filed. When you come in for an informal review, like I said, I'll send you out values. They're considered either not tentative, but preliminary values. If you come in for an informal review, or you don't come in for an informal review, those tentative assessments, or the preliminary assessments, will become tentative on March 1st, I'm getting all my dates mixed up here, on May 1st, when the tentative roll is filed. Then the fourth Tuesday of May is the start of the formal grievance process, which the Board of Assessment Review will start meeting on the fourth Tuesday of May, which is right after the day after Memorial Day. And then we'll meet until all of the assessment complaint forms that have submitted have been heard or reviewed. You don't have to have an informal review to go to the Board of Assessment Review to make out a Board of Assessment Review application, or to come to the Board of Assessment Review, but we do need the actual complaint form filed by the end of the day, or the end of the meeting, the Board of Assessment Review meeting on May 26th. Anything after that, the board will not be able to hear it. So you got to make sure you have all of your complaints in to the Board of Assessment Review by or on May 26th. July 1st, the final assessment roll is filed, and that concludes the assessment cycle for the year. Now, I can change the assessments anytime between now and about April 30th, because I'm still in possession and under the control of the roll. On May 1st, when I file the tentative roll, I cannot change it anymore. Any changes have to be ordered by the Board of Assessment Review. All right. Role of the assessor. The assessor is tasked with the discovery, listing, and valuation of all real property within an assessing unit for the purposes of taxation or special ad valorem levies for county, town, village, and special district purposes. We also do the real property tax exemptions. We take those in and put them on the roll. We've come down to where the tax exemption applications are probably 75% of my job now, and only about 25% is actually in valuation of the real property. But what the assessor does do, we determine the assessed values of properties. We try to ensure that the assessments are equitably distributed across the town. Do assessment updates. We maintain the property record cards, which we go out and measure the houses, any additions to the homes, any changes that are made to the homes. We review assessment complaints and defend them at the Board of Assessment Review. And of course, we take, what I just said, the applications for the tax exemptions, the STAR, actually not the STAR, but the senior, veterans, and low income with disabilities. What the assessor doesn't do is we don't set the tax rates. We don't decide how much tax the town collects. We don't approve the town budget. We can't control the school, village, and county taxes. We do not mail the tax bills, and we don't collect taxes. Now, the town of Perinton went to full valuation back in 2002. At the time, before they went to full value, our equalization rate was at 9.83%. So since 2002 to 2018, there were several townwide updates done in between there. But the last time townwide reval was done in 2018. As we mentioned, we did try to do a reval in 2020, and probably most of you remember the assessment change notice that I sent out in 2020, and then we had to delay that due to the pandemic. I couldn't figure out how I was going to do informal reviews on possibly 3,500 parcels with the pandemic. Now, the town of, I think it was East Bloomfield, they did do an update in 2020, but of course that's a small town. The town hall was next to the parking lot, and he did drive-through informal reviews. He was inside with the window open, and people would drive through with the cars. So, anyhow. All right. So since 2020, the market has taken off. I still can't believe how much it's gone up in just the 6 years. Now, we mentioned the equalization rate for the town is at 57%. It was at 100% back when I got here in 2019. It was still at 100% in 19, and I tried to keep it at 100% at 2020, but then had to postpone it. So since 2020 to now, it's dropped to 57%. Now, the equalization rate is a percentage set by New York that shows how closely the town's property, assessments reflect current market value. If we're at 100% like we were before, that means we're pretty much on target with the assessments to what the properties are selling. If we're less than 100%, it means that we're too low. Now, the equalization rate, the main purpose for that, outside of seeing what level of assessment each town is currently assessing, is the equalization rate is used to equalize assessments across taxing jurisdictions. The equalization rates for the towns within Monroe County currently range from 48% up to 100%. So if I'll use an example for the county taxes. So the county taxes are spread over all the towns in the county. If all the county rate was all the same in all the towns, the towns that are at 48% would be paying not their fair share of taxes than the property because their assessments are low and the towns that are 100% are high. So the towns that are at a lower equalization rate would be not paying their fair share. So before the county tax levy is apportioned across the town, across the towns in the county, the taxable assessment for the town is equalized up to 100%. Now, they could take it down to 47%, but they've chosen to take everything to 100%. And then the town tax levy is apportioned between each of the towns, and then that portion is divided by the actual taxable assessment for that town, and a tax rate is calculated. So that the towns that are at a lower that are at the 48% equalization rate have a higher tax rate than those towns that are at 100%. So when assessments are not adjusted on a regular basis, they stop reflecting what the actual market value is due to the market changes. So if we take a look at the homes in the same neighborhood or in your same subdivision, one style of home might be changing in value faster than another style of home. So there's the assessments become unequal. So if we look between neighborhoods, one neighborhood might be rising a little faster than another neighborhood. Look at property types. Commercial properties will not appreciate as fast or at the same rate anyhow as a residential. So that's why we go through a reval trying to look at what property would sell for and trying to determine what the market value of each of the properties are. Now, effective inequitable assessment. In this example, property A and property B in 2018 both had a full market value of 200,000. So their assessments should have been or were set at 200,000. In 2025, property A, the full assessment has full market value has gone up to 350,000, but property B, the full market value has only increased to 300,000, but the assessed values have remained at 200,000. So what this means is that even though parcel A, the market value was increased faster than parcel B, they're both paying the same amount of taxes, where parcel A should be paying a little bit more if we base the taxes on the value of the property. Like I said, market values do change over time, and assessments, when assessments don't, then we have an unequal balance there, and they won't change until town does a townwide reval. Now, I say that with a little caveat on the side, is if you do change your property, if you do add an addition to your property or add a basement, or not add a basement, but finish a basement, add a barn, add a deck, I will raise the assessment for that improvement that you've done on the home. But the assessment doesn't reflect what the market is doing. I can't raise you for, well, you can get 10% more because that's what the market is. I don't raise that all the way up to what the market would say it is. The only portion of the assessment that I change is what that addition does to the market value. So if your finished basement is adding $10,000 to your market value, that is what it would, the only change in the assessment that it would occur. All right, so what is being done this year? So revaluations are common. Here are a list of municipalities in Monroe County that have done revaluations recently. The city of Rochester, probably you all remember the news and listening to when they went through their revaluation. The map of New York State on the right-hand side, the green areas show the towns that have done a reassessment since 2002. Of the 995 municipalities in the state, 365 have done a reassessment, which is about 37%. So a revaluation is a community-wide review of property values to make sure that assessments reflect today's real estate market and are applied fairly and consistently, or at least that's what we try to do. All properties in the town are reviewed. The assessment office will look at recent sales of similar properties. They will adjust the selling prices according to the market changes and differences between the properties. And all the assessments are set using the same standards for all types. Now, revaluation, reassessments, update, they all mean the same thing. And you'll probably hear me switch back and forth during the presentation here. So revaluation matters because all properties don't change at the same pace. And when assessments don't get updated regularly, some properties become overassessed while others become underassessed. And the problem is that results in an uneven tax burden. And when we go through a reval, that's what we're trying to do, is to make sure that the tax burden is shared equally by everybody. Now, equity, of course, is the goal. We try to assess all the properties at the same market standard at the same time so that similar properties will share in the same tax burden. They'll have similar taxes, and the assessments will be uniform as required by New York state law. Now, when I say it's required by New York state law, what the real property tax law says that all the properties have to be assessed at a uniform percentage of value. And you can do that at 10% or 5% or 100%, whichever percentage you want, just as long as that on average they are at full value or at a uniform percentage. Several years ago, the state passed legislation requiring all towns to be at 100%. And the smaller towns started calling their Congress people saying, well, we don't even have data collected for all the properties. We don't even know what's out there. In order to be at full value, we're going to have to do data collection. In order to do data collection, we're going to have to double or triple our tax rate to hire somebody to come in and do it. So the legislators redrafted that law to say that all the properties have to be at a uniform percentage of value. Go. All right, so what is market value? Textbook definition of the market value is the most probable price in terms of money which a property should bring in a competitive and open market under all conditions required for a fair sale, the willing buyer and the willing seller each acting prudently and knowledgeably, and assuming the price is not affected by undue stimulus or duress to either property. So in short, the market value is what a property would likely sell for in today's open market. And that market value is determined between the buyer and the seller and not the town. We just look at what the properties are selling for. The buyer and the seller determine what that selling price is. The assessor's office is reactive. to what the property is selling for. This is what they sold for. This is what the assessment's going to be. We don't say this is what what their property is going to sell for. Therefore, we're going to put the assessment at what they're going to sell for. It's always historical. That's why typically assessments usually run a little bit behind. So why assess at 100% of market value? And the biggest reason is it makes the property assessments clear, transparent, and easy to understand. It's a lot easier for me to say to somebody that your house is worth $350,000 rather than it's only worth, the assessment's at $35,000, but it's worth, $350,000. The state law does require the properties to be at 100% of market value if we receive maintenance aid money. They do have this. The state does have an account that they put money into each year for property for towns who do go through a townwide reval, and the town can get up to $5 per parcel when they do a reval. Usually it runs around $2.50 to $2.75. It all depends on how many towns are doing revals and how many parcels they have to split up that money between. So what drives market value? The biggest thing on lately is the one right on the top, the number of homes available for sale. The number of homes for sale across Monroe County has been very low over recent years. But these are only a few of the things that that affect what a person is willing to pay for a house. The one item that I have never been able to quantify is the human factor. I have two houses on paper. They're exactly the same. They should sell for the exact same amount of money. But this one over here sells for more. And you have to scratch your head and say, well, why? And it usually comes down to the human factor. One spouse likes this part of the house, while another, they like this part of the house and they need it because of XYZ. So they're willing to pay more for the property. So that is one of my quandaries, but that's what makes the job fun. Your battery's getting low. All right. So the market value is used in the revaluation by comparing your house to other properties that have sold. If that property is sold for X amount of dollars, your property should sell for X amount of dollars. We adjust between your house and the property that's sold for, if one has less or more square footage, we adjust for the square footage. We would adjust for acreage, we adjust for the style of the home, the condition of the home if we know it, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. So we try to adjust for everything that you as the buyer might come out and consider before you're buying the home. So as I stated, the town does not set the market values. That is determined by the buyer and the seller in the real estate market. And the reevaluation simply realigns the assessments to current market value. Now, the gorilla in the room. I will say right now is for this presentation, we're assuming that the taxes don't increase. Now, we all know that taxes from one year to the next, you're going to see most times an increase. The town, as far as I know, has never gone over that 2% increase rule that the governor passed several years ago. And as far as I know, Fairport schools have never gone over that 2% either. I can't speak for the other four in the town. So we know that they're going to increase a little bit. Usually it's under that 2%, or it's like so far it's always been under that 2%. But for ease of for the slideshow, we're simply going to assume or say that the taxes are not going to change. So the revaluation changes how the property values are measured and not how much taxes are raised. The amount of taxes you pay is dependent on the tax levy, which is determined by the budgets that are approved by the town, village, county, and school. Each government entity sets its own budgets and its own tax levy. The revaluations don't automatically raise taxes. So the town board will set the budget for the town, and that the town budget is spread across the entire town, including inside the village of Fairport. The village of Fairport, the village board of trustees sets their tax levy, and that tax levy is only applied against the properties within the village boundaries. The county legislature sets the budget for the county, and as we all know, that's spread out across the entire county, including all villages. And each of the schools sets their own tax levy, and that's applied against only the properties that are located within that school district. Now, there also are special districts for fire, ambulance, lighting. I think there's a park district right off the top of my head. Again, those special districts, the costs are that those taxes are only applied against those different tax districts. All right, another video.
Let's start off by creating a small town with only 3 houses. Each house is different and has a different value. The first house has a market value of $200,000. The second house has a value of $250,000. And the third house is valued at $350,000. The town supplies services, and the money to pay for these services is recovered through property taxation. Let's imagine that the town needs to collect $1,200 to pay for these services. To calculate the tax rate, you divide the cost to provide services by the total assessed value of all properties in the town. This establishes a tax rate. Now, to calculate how much tax each home pays, you multiply the tax rate by the assessment. As you can see, the first house would pay $300. The second home would pay $375, and the highest value home would pay $525. Let's summarize what we've covered so far. 1. Assessment places a market value on each property. 2. The total assessment is used to calculate the tax rate. 3. Taxes pay for the cost of town services like roads, sidewalks, snow removal, parks, and more. Now, let's imagine that another year has passed and that property values have increased by 4%. Let's also imagine the cost of providing services has remained the same, $1,200. The tax rate is still the cost of services divided by the total assessment. The result is that all owners still pay the same taxes as before because the cost of services has not changed. Let's summarize again. 1. An assessment increase does not necessarily mean more taxes are collected. 2. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same amount as long as the cost of services stays the same. Now let's imagine another year has passed and values did not increase at the same rate. Home 1 remained at the same value, $280,000. Home 2 increased by 1% to $262,600. And home 3 increased 3% to $374,920. The cost of services stayed the same at $1,200. But divided by the total new assessment equals the new tax rate. The net effect of the new values is house 1 pays less tax. The house that went up 3% pays a higher proportionate share. If all assessments do not go up equally, there was a redistribution of the tax. However, the total tax collected remains the same. Now, what happens if the cost of services goes up? Let's do the math. Services now cost $1,400. The result is a different tax rate. As you can see, an increase in service costs result in a tax increase. But suppose the cost of services went up and one more home was built in town, valued at $300,000. The new total assessment is now $1,145,520. This results in a new tax rate. The new house now helps pay for the cost of services, and the result is that everybody pays less. This is a hypothetical representation of how the process works. The key points are: 1. Total assessment value is used to calculate tax rates. 2. An increase in property value does not always mean an increase in taxes. 3. New construction helps pay the overall tax burden. 4. Taxes are based on the cost of providing services that citizens want and need. And this explains how revaluation and taxation work. To help residents understand Perinton's townwide revaluation, we're offering both public information sessions and office hours. Public information sessions are large group presentations that explain the entire revaluation process, why it's happening, what to expect, key dates, and next steps. These sessions are open to everyone, and no registration is required. All public information sessions will also be available as a Zoom webinar. Details on how to join the Zoom sessions are available from the town website at perinton.gov. We're also hosting office hours, which are smaller, informal opportunities to speak with town officials individually or in small groups. These conversations are more personal and allow for specific questions. For more details and access to resources, forms, and the registration links for office hours, please visit perinton.gov.
So a revaluation doesn't automatically will raise taxes because the tax levy is what controls the amount of taxes that are due. The revaluation updates the values used to divide the total amount, and of course the goal is to accurately and fairly distribute the taxes, and it's not to increase the revenue. Now, the what doesn't change is the tax levy. That remains the same. The assessments will increase, and the tax rate itself will generally go down, because if your levy remains the same and your assessments go from here up to here, it's got a wider, bigger assessed value, taxable assessed value, just to spread those same amount of taxes over. So the tax rate will generally come down. Now, there's 3 examples that we have so in each example, the last year column, all the information remains the same. Your assessment is at 100,000. The total value of the town is at 50 million. The tax levy is 1.5 million, and the tax rate is $30 per thousand. So last year, you paid $3,000. In example 1, your assessment increased by 5% up to 105. The total value of the town increased by 8% up to 54 million. Tax levy remained the same, so the tax rate itself decreased down to $27.78 per thousand. So your tax bill decreased down to $2,917 from $3,000. So your assessment increased, the value of the town increased, and the levy remained the same. In example 2, your assessment increased by the same 5%. The total value of the town increased to that 54 million. The tax levy increased by up to 1,542,000 and some change. So the tax rate increased. It went down from the 30, but it increased a little bit from example 1. But since your assessment increased and the value of the town increased and the tax levy increased, but your overall tax bill remained the same at $3,000. In example 3, the assessment decreased, but the tax bill remained the same, or actually increased. So your assessment went down by 5% to 95,000. The total value of the town went decreased by 47,000 down to 47,500, 47,500,000. The tax levy remained the same as in example 2, but your tax bill increased up to 3,085 because the tax rate itself increased. And you can get those figures if you take the taxable assessment and divide it by the tax levy, will give you the actual tax rate. Now, in this scenario, last year, which actually is this year, 2025-26, the town amount of their tax levy was $10,010,832. If you look at your tax bill for a town outside the village, you'll see that that is the actual tax levy on the tax bill. Now, the taxable assessment, assessment and how much taxes are collected between the village and town outside villages varies because some of the budget is spread over the entire town, while some is just outside the village. So the taxable assessment is actually the overall assessment, taxable assessment for the whole town, which is a little over 4.3 billion right now. So in dividing the levy by the taxable assessment, we have a tax rate of $2.32 per thousand, and that's pretty close to what your tax bill is, or the rate on your tax bill. If you have an assessment of $280,000, you'd be paying $649 in town taxes. Now, for this coming year, the assessments will most likely will be doubling. So the total amount of the tax levy, if that remains the same at $10 million, it's $10 million, and we divide that by the new taxable assessment of about $8.6 billion, that results in a tax rate of $1.16 per thousand, which your tax bill, so your assessment would double from 280 to 560. But since the 560 is then multiplied by a tax rate of $1.16 instead of 232, your town tax bill will remain about the same. All right, so what to expect? So because the current market value has grown significantly since 2018 and really from 2020, like I said, early reviews are indicating that the average residential assessment are going to nearly double because of the long-term market change. I'm going to click ahead here one. So we said the level of assessment of the equalization rate currently is at 57%, and that is projected to go down to 53% unless we complete a reval for this year. Preliminary reviews of preliminary assessments are projecting that in the village, the average increase will be about 102%, the median of about 99%. Town outside the village, average increase of 96%, median of about 95%, overall 97 average and 96 median. But now remember, as the taxable assessments are doubled and the levy remains about the same, that tax rate is going to come down. So if you take a look, when you get your bill, I'm sure you're going to be doing that division of what is my percentage change. If your percentage change is somewheres near the townwide average up there, your tax bill should remain pretty level than from what it was last year. If your change is higher, then you're going to probably be paying a little more taxes. If it's lower, you'll be paying about the same or a little bit less. So the bottom line is the property values in Perinton have changed significantly since 2018. The reval, we're trying to get everybody up to full value for a current market value. But in this slide under why it matters, the third bullet, what matters the most is does your preliminary assessment that I send you represent the market value of your property? If it, after research of sales that have occurred in the town, or if you've had an appraisal done of the home for estate purposes, or I hate refinance appraisals, because in a refinance appraisal, pretty much the only thing the bank is looking for is your house worth what you're borrowing? So, but if you've had a appraisal done, take a look at that. And if it doesn't, if the assessment is not reflecting what you think the market value of your home is, then you want to either write to us or send us an email or do an informal review here at the town and have us review the assessment. So the informal reviews are going to be, I think they're probably going to be starting probably the second or third week in March. I'm hoping the second week in March, and we'll probably be going for about 3 weeks. After the informal reviews are done, or if we can't fit them all in, then anybody we can't get to, then they'll have to file a complaint form with the Board of Assessment Review for the Board of Assessment Review to review it. Now, the reason for the informal review is I've had people come in and just say why, and I explain it, the reasons to them, and they say, well, now I understand, thank you very much, and they go away not happy, but they understand. But the main reason is for you to have the opportunity to bring documentation to me, whether the house has deferred maintenance, has a leaky roof, the basement's caving in, or the barn is falling down, whatever that information that I might not have in my office. It gives you the opportunity to submit that information to me. Now, it is important for you to bring that information to me and show me why you think your assessment's not worth the property is, or the assessment's wrong and the property is not worth what we think it's worth. Just coming and saying it's not worth that, really isn't a reason, and I don't have any reason to change it. So you have to bring something to show me why the property is not worth what it is. I'm going to go back here. In the middle of the slide there is how to prepare that information. Most of this information will be included in your letter that I send out to you. Read that letter that I send. If you have trouble sleeping, that would probably be the time to read it, because it will put you to sleep. So be sure to read the letter, and it will help. Now, this is the revaluation timeline. We're in February 2026 there in this informational review. March, we'll be doing the informal reviews, March and April. May 1st will be the filing of the tentative roll. March 26th is the Board of Assessment review of the grievance period, or starting of the grievance period, and July 1st, the roll is filed. Now, this is the sample of the assessment change notice or the assessment information that you will get in the mail. It'll have your information at the top, have whatever exceptions we have on the file up in the upper right-hand corner. In the middle of the page, we'll have what your assessment was last year and what your proposed assessment is this year, and what the net change is. At the bottom, it'll have the county, town, and school taxes. I cannot put on the village tax because the program doesn't allow it. This RPS real property system that was developed over 40 years ago doesn't allow more than the three. So special districts are on there and the village taxes are not on there, but the village, town, and school are. It will list what the tentative assessment was in last year and what it is this year, and then it will state what your taxes were last year with your old assessment. And then what the New York State will do is we'll take everybody's new assessment and the town, county, and school budget, and we'll calculate a new fictitious tax rate using the new assessments in the old budgets. And we'll multiply that fictitious tax rate times your new assessment, and we'll come up with what your taxes would have been last year with last year's budget if you had your assessment last year, and we'll state it down at the bottom. And hopefully you see a decrease down there in the lower right-hand corner. But that's basically what it will look like when you receive it. So if you want to learn more, I am having a small meeting, town hall meeting here Thursday, February 12th at 1 o'clock in room 208, which is over this way, right down the hall a little bit further. And another one on February 14th if you don't have anything better to do on Valentine's Day, and come out and see me. So tax exemptions are due by March 1st, except for the star. The star has gone strictly to the state. If you have a basic star right now on your tax bill, and you age in or your income qualifies for the enhanced portion of the star exemption, the state will now notify me directly to change this person's basic star to an enhanced star. This is the first year for that, so hopefully it goes through without any problems. But in addition to the star exemption, there is the senior citizen exemption, which can be you can have that in as well as the star exemption. The senior exemption, these are explained on the town website. People over 65 and the maximum income after we go through the formula for county purposes and for village purposes is 58,400. For town and school, the maximum is 37,400. There's also the persons with disability and limited income. Those you have to be receiving SSI, Social Security disability is what you have to be, not SSI, Social Security disability. And you have to be the income for that is the county is at 58,400, while the village, town, and schools are all at 37,400. The veterans exemption is for anybody who has been honorably discharged from the United States Armed Services. I did have one person that came in who served in the Panzer Division. I had to deny him, unfortunately. And then we have the volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker, which you have to be a member of the ambulance or the ambulance corps, the fire department or the ambulance corps for a minimum of 2 years before you would qualify for that. So the senior person with disability veterans exemption and the volunteer firemen, they all have to be applied in my office before March 1st. So that's the end of my spiel. Like I said, the list of residential sales and commercial sales are on the town website for you to look through and to help you decide whether your property is worth what the assessment says it is.
Thank you. So before we begin the question and comment portion, I'd like to remind everyone how the process works. We'll start by taking in-person questions and comments here in the room. After that, we'll move to participants joining us via Zoom. If you're in the room now and you have a comment or a question, please form an orderly line at the center podium up front. This setup provides audio for our video recording as well as our Zoom participants. Please refrain from comments or questions until you're at the podium using the microphone. As a reminder, please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and brief so we can hear from as many people as possible. Please state your name and address first before your question or comment. With that, we'll begin with our first in-person question.
Come on, don't be shy. I only snap, I don't bite. Walk up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Hello, Mr. Pickering. My name's Jen Townsend. I'm wondering if we're going to be having any public hearings about other exemptions that might be offered to the public.
There are new exemptions that have been either revised or added from this recent legislative session. I believe at the town board meeting. This is Tuesday, tomorrow night. Oh my gosh. The senior citizens exemption, currently it tops out at 50% exemption. And they added legislation to increase that 50% up to 65% if your income is lower. If you were at 29,000, then between 0 and 29,000, you're at 50%. If it's lower than 29,000 by 1,000, the 50 goes to 55. If it's lower than 2,000, it goes to 60, and then 65 if you're $3,000 below that minimum level. There's also the firefighters exemption. There's a portion that's added to that gives a exemption to the surviving spouse of a firefighter or ambulance person who was killed in the line of duty. Also, the law was revised where if the member, firefighter member had been a member for 20 years and passed away, that the spouse would be able to keep the deceased spouse exemption as long as she owned the home. And in the original law, it was unremarried surviving spouse, and they've taken off the unremarried portion and just its surviving spouse. Another one, which is a brand new law that will be enacted, sounds like it's going to be enacted, is an exemption for surviving spouse of police officer that's killed in the line of duty. Now we're still trying to ascertain from the Association of Towns whether that is retroactive back to police officers that have been killed prior to the enactment on Wednesday. But we'll have to wait and see on that. My initial response is no, it doesn't, because typically in a bill, when it goes retroactive, it will state that it goes retroactive back to a certain date. So, but we're going to find out from the Association of Towns on that.
first. You probably answered my question, so go ahead.
Dave Masterson. The expression clear as mud is in the top of my mind here. So a couple things I'm trying to figure out here. The assessed value, what actually determines that? You had mentioned previously that homes in your neighborhood, it sounds like are the way that they're assessed. Is that correct? The square footage, age, or location of your home have anything to do with that?
Yes.
Okay, very
No.
good.
So, no, the assessment is the market value of the property. Whatever the other properties that have sold are indicating what your property would sell for. Now, that's assuming that the other property is in the same condition as yours. Now, if you have a lot of deferred maintenance on the home, needs a new siding, it needs a new roof. The kitchen is from from the original year it was built. Your bathrooms are from the original year that it was built. You have a wet basement where it floods every time that there's a drop of rain. Those are stuff that we don't know about and will affect the, the value of your property. So we have to take a look at each one on an individual basis. A lot of times what we'll do is if there's a deferred maintenance on a home or there's something wrong that needs to be replaced, we'll lower the assessment by the cost of the remediation for that issue for a year or two, and then revisit it and go from there.
So when the reassessment is done and the values are available, will they be public information? Meaning, will I be able to see what the area homes in my neighborhood were reassessed at? Or is
Yeah,
that private information?
Yeah, no, I'll be running a street index
Okay,
and placing it in a PDF file on the town website. So you can go in and you can stroll down through and you can take a look at all the streets in your neighborhood. It'll be by street orders, so you'll have to go, from one street to another. But it will list all the assessments.
so that should be available in March when they're all mailed out.
Before I send out the notices, it will be on the website.
Okay,
That's an easy report.
okay. You talk about these tax exempt applications. So my question is, who recovers all those exempt taxes that somebody may not have to pay?
The rest of the people who don't have exemptions,
Okay, so
or
all
they
of them.
might have exemptions,
Okay,
but the town collects their money. If it collects the money that they need, the county, town, and school. If people come in and the tax exemptions cuts the taxable assessment or the total assessment in half, then the tax rate doubles. If they don't, so whatever exemptions we give out it lowers the tax bill for that person, but the rest of the people in the town pays that share of the taxes that is given up through that tax exemption.
see if there was anything else real quick. 2018 would be the last time your or any home in Perinton was reevaluated. Is that correct? Reassessed?
Except for additions and to the home, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wayne.
Hi, it's Jeff Ho. My question is regarding the market value. You said that that's based on July of 2025?
The valuation date is July 1st of 2025,
Yeah,
correct?
so how does that fit in with the assessment and the sales that are going on at a kind of on a continuous basis here. So how do you go about evaluating the price of a house when the sales don't necessarily match that specific date?
Don't know
Because
if I
it's
quite
kind of,
understand.
the prices can go up and down around, I guess, the market value date that you would set.
Yeah,
So how do you come up with a value worthy assessment?
well, we take the property and compare it against other properties of similar style and square footage that have sold. And assuming that your house will sell for the same amount of money that the comparable house will sell for, that's where we will set the assessment at that level.
I guess I understand that. I'm saying, but the valuation that you're looking at is based on July 1st of 2025. So is that the date you're looking for sales, or is that the date that you're evaluating our house at?
Yeah, the valuation date is, I'm actually using sales for this town-wide update from, well, outside the village, I'm using from July 1st of 23 to June of 25.
Okay, so there's nothing after that point in time?
So then, and setting the value as of July 1st of 25. So if, for instance, if the town saw a 25% appreciation in market value for some reason, either up or down, that and so right now that 3,000 square foot or that 3,000 square foot house is selling for much more today. Today's today, that would be rolled back to what the value would have been on July 1st of 2025. So it's valuing all the properties on that valuation day as they stand on March 1st of this year.
Okay.
This is the hardest part
Yeah,
that nobody understands.
that-
And
well,
I
I
understand.
and I think you're doing a good job explaining it. I just, there's a lot of sales that go on after that point in time, which you
Right,
can't
and
use.
we don't use those sales. We have to cut off sales at some point.
Right.
Because we create models and create tables to do the valuation through RPS, and we can't have a moving target because each set of sales are going to probably indicate a different value. You know, between July 1st of last year and now, we're still seeing appreciation. The MLS, there'll be houses selling for over, $50 to $75,000 more than what they're listed for. So we're still seeing appreciation from July to now, but we don't use those sales. We have to cut it off someplace, and that July 1st, the valuation day is where we cut them off.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Jim McLean. I'm a resident of Fairport, and I'm a veteran and a senior citizen. I'd like to know how many exemptions we can claim off our property taxes. Can we claim more than one, or is there a maximum number that we can claim?
There is no maximum number. The limited income or the disability limited income and the senior exemption cannot go together. Those are the only two that can't go together. But you can have a senior citizens, a veterans, clergy, if you have a clergy, all at the same time. You can't have a veteran, a Cold War veterans and a wartime veterans because the two don't overlap. But you can have as many exemptions as you qualify for. If you had a farm, you could have an ag assessment exemption as well as a senior and a veterans, and so we
So,
never have to pay you back, but it can go to zero.
yeah, I'm a Vietnam veteran, so that would that reduce my tax burden more
Yes,
than just
yes, it would. You would want to come into the office. Well, if you haven't signed up for it, then you would want to come into the office before March 1st and bring your DD 214, and we'll get you signed up.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick Little. I got a couple simple questions for you, so hopefully
Okay.
you can give us an answer. We built our home on the old family farm. The house itself has a particular value to it, but what about the land? It sits on 7 acres. How do you determine the um, value of that
Yeah,
acreage?
on the assessment roll, I have to put a value for the land, and then I have a total value for the land and the building. So I do have to come up with a value for the land, and we usually look at what property is selling for, and we'll establish the land value that way. Now, you do pay taxes only on the full amount of the assessment, the full assessment. So I could, if I wanted to, I could set your land at $1, but your full assessment at the market value, and that's the full assessment is what you would be paying taxes on. But I don't do that. I try to come up with a reasonable land value as well as
that extra acreage, it's all poison ivy. It's not worth anything.
At least you didn't say it was swamp, then I'd have to do waterfront. So.
Hi, Dave Pompey.
Hi.
I have a question. Earlier you said that you would have a file available in PDF form of all the properties and what the numbers would be for them. Can I get it in an actual machine readable like Excel or Comma Delimited or something else? This would allow me to not have to hand punch in numbers for the people around me if I wanted to do a comparison on square foot or property value or things like that.
So you're talking about the street index I was mentioning that would have all the assessments?
Yes.
So I could probably put that out on file in an Excel file, village and town outside with that information. The figures would be locked down, so you wouldn't be able to change it, but you would be able to sort it. You wouldn't be able to add columns or division or anything like that but I could probably put that in an
Okay.
Excel file, but
That would be good. In previous years, I've been able to run.
It won't be all free form. It'll have restrictions on it.
Okay. In previous year, I had to run it through a PDF to Excel converter and then have to manually correct a whole bunch of things in order to do my analysis. So that's why I'm asking if it's available for machine readable, whether it's Excel or SQL or comma delimited or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Hi, Judy Wilson. How soon do you think the letters will go out with our appraisal? I mean, with our,
Yeah.
the amount?
I want them to go out next week, but I'm set behind a little bit in my timing. So I'm hoping to have them out by the last week in July or in last week of February. All right. Everybody online?
All right. Any other questions from the room? Great. We will now move over to field questions from our participants joining us on Zoom. If you're joining us on Zoom and have questions, please use the Q&A chat button on the bottom banner of your screen. I'll read your question aloud to the room in the order they were received, and Wayne will provide the responses. Up first, somebody asked, so if since 2019 you've added an addition or a barn or a building, does that square footage automatically get attached to the tax bill, or is it sitting still until a reassessment?
The market value would be automatically added to the assessment. We don't have to wait for a revaluation, but the amount that is added to the assessment is only what that barn or that addition adds to the market value of the property. We do not add any equalization increase for a market appreciation until the reval.
Another participant asked, you give examples where the total levy stays the same and taxes decrease. However, the total Perinton levy seems to increase about $600,000 each year. So isn't this scenario unlikely?
Yes, and like I mentioned right when we started doing the tax rate and taxes portion of the presentation, that for the presentation, we were just going to assume or argue that the property was the taxes were going to remain the same. Now, the taxes, as we all know, do increase annually. But for presentation purposes, we were just assuming that they were remaining the same.
Great. I'll give it another bit of time for any additional questions to come through on Zoom. Did you want to do those additional slides?
So while they're waiting for that, this is just one last slide of just some town statistics. In the 25 assessment roll, the total parcel count was 18,214 with 2206 in the village and 16,008 parcels outside the village. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see that the majority of the town is made up by residential property at almost 78%. And commercial is at a little bit under 10%. Now, on the bottom, you'll see that the wholly exempt portion of the roll, meaning that that does not include exemptions, the senior citizen exemption or whatever. The wholly exempt would be your churches and your schools and the town, and that they don't pay any taxes at all, is a little under 7%, which for the town is good news. And if we were up in the St. Lawrence County is almost 50% tax exempt because of the parks and what have you. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
We had another question come in. Does having water, sewers, or septic affect your taxes?
The neighborhoods that I've cut out the town into what I refer to as assessment neighborhoods, and the assessment neighborhoods usually will or I try to have whether they have water or sewer all the same. You can compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So yes, it does make a difference in my neighborhoods. So yes.
I believe that's all the questions that we have on Zoom.
All right. Any more questions on in-house? Uh-oh. Going for round two.
Not a question, but a comment. Thank you for doing such a wonderful job. It takes a special person to be able to understand this and teach everybody here and within the town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This concludes our second town-wide revaluation public information session. The recorded video from tonight will be available on the town's YouTube channel if you'd like to view it again. Did you want to say anything? Sorry. Thank you for taking the time to be here tonight and engaging with us. Thank you.
It's okay.
68 for 38 to add.
What exactly?